I'm very happy to be here, and I'm really happy that you are interested in practicing being in the body. That seems like we should all know how to do that, but we do not. It's a skill. It's a skillful means, let's say, and it's not necessarily, it becomes unnatural, let's say, after a certain amount of time when we're younger and we start to gain ego and we start thinking more than we do sensing. But it is natural and it's organic, and so we have to relearn it, I think. We just have to be reintroduced. The benefits of it, you might know. We'll explore a little bit of that after practice. Um, but maybe as we begin, if you wouldn't mind, put in the chat like why you're interested in being embodied. Very short, like a couple, like a sentence or so. We can see how, see what brings everybody here or some of you here if you want. Oh, thank you for telling me I'm awesome. Yeah, learn from the physical body rather than just the mind because you have a body. Yeah. Chronic illness. Sorry to hear about that. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, these are all really great things, aren't they? Some of us have to learn with chronic illness or chronic pain. Some of us have to learn to live with intermittent illness or pain. Pain is pain, whether it's physical, mental, or emotional, and also very bundled. But the body is was always taught by the Buddha as the aspect called rupa. And if you've been with me before, you've heard me say this a lot, and I think it bears repeating. Rupa is the material form of conscious awareness. So it was never downplayed as that, oh, there's the mind, this sparkly, intelligent, ultra conscious mind. And then there's a body that carries it around. And that was never part of the teachings. It was always that there is mental formation of conscious awareness, and then there's a material formation of conscious awareness. So here we are. We have both, and we can explore the body for all the reasons that some of you said in here in the chat. Is that the body is this huge territory of intelligence that we can learn to understand without words, and we're just so addicted and so used to words and thinking that it can be pretty new to learn from the wordless, learn from more abstract, learn from literally sensing things rather than thinking about them. And it adds so much to our life, I think. So what I wanted to do today was just give you a little taste of some guidance into the body, not that you've never been there before, but in a way that hopefully will be helpful for you for today. Um, and know that there's much more we can explore, obviously. So take a posture or position that is comfortable for you for between 20-25 minutes. And I would suggest if you're not well, that you lie down. I did, really lot. I still do a lot of meditation lying down on the floor. Got me a lot of side eye when I first started teaching. Like, you can't teach meditation lying down, but yeah, you can practice lying down. It's one of the four postures. So if that's what's helpful for you, then please do lie down. What's most important is that we put our bodies in a shape that we can maintain for about 25 minutes or so without a lot of pain, because that just draws us out of being able to be present and with anything but the pain, and hard to focus on anything. So if you're lying down, just know that you want to stay as awake and alert as possible, even though your body is relaxed. So let's make that intention. So whatever shape or form that you've placed yourself in, thoughtfully placed yourself in for now, recognize it. It's just a shape or it's just a form. How do we embody it? So as you settle into whatever posture you've chosen, see if you can get a sense of weight to begin with. Almost like your bones are sinking into whatever it is that you're lying on or seated upon, or if you're standing, how your feet feel on the ground. Where is the most weight? And the heaviest bones or the heaviest areas? And this is a way of really sensing gravity. And one of the aspects of gravity that I love is that it keeps us on the planet. It holds us to the earth. So we get really connected if we spend just a moment or two paying attention to that, or we can. Really sense that contact, connection, not just to whatever it is that you feel, but you can even imagine it. The connection goes into the earth like root systems. And just let, as much as you can, let all the soft tissue surrounding your bones, but give a little bit more space for the bones, just soften so that nothing on purpose is being held tensely. If there's discomfort in your body, see if you can soften the area around it, maybe not right in it, but around it. And then turn your attention towards the back of your eyes just for a moment. And see if you can allow the backs of your eyes to sink a little bit more deeply into your skull. Almost like you're looking at the back of your skull, if you can imagine that. And sometimes we sense it. And then see if you can soften your tongue in the mouth. And the tongue as it falls down your throat. Let the tongue relax. And this can help relax the belly, the diaphragm, even the pelvic floor. And then from whatever space you're in internally, see if you can sense the space around you. What's the room feel like? And this is not visually knowing, but sensing it. Like, can you feel the air in your room? Can you sense the space between the top of your head and the sides of your body and wherever it is that you're placed in right now in your environment? Can you sense the space around you? Maybe you feel the temperature of your environment on your skin, or the difference between the skin that's exposed and the skin that has clothing covering it. It's like when you move through a pond or the ocean and you find cool spots and warm spots. So very slowly draw your attention to the differences in temperature, wherever you sense the air on your skin, and even where you might sense space around you. And then you might notice light from your environment, and this can come in through your eyelids. So we sense sight or light and darkness, all variations in between. And we also hear sounds. And you hear the sound of my voice, but you might also hear sounds from your room or outside of your room, depending on where you are. So our sense door of sight or seeing and hearing, listening can be active and included in our sense of being in the body. This puts us in time and space. It brings us to the present moment by relaxing a little internally as much as we can for now, listening, seeing, and just sensing. We more easily come to the present moment. And see if you can sense this slight amount of air that's coming in and out through your nostrils. And know that whatever the air is that's coming in and out of your nose right now is coming from this larger space that you're in, and even from the larger space of the universe. It's not just contained in a room, but as this very light, probably fairly shallow breath is happening, it's like an exchange. It's from outside to inside and back from inside to the outside. It can be quite delicate. It doesn't have to be very long or in any particular place. But for now, just sense it at the nostrils or inside of the nose, just to set a focus. And then, if you'd like to, take the breath that you're sensing and move it in a little bit more slowly and gently and more deeply into your body, wherever it feels okay to breathe into. So it doesn't have to be huge, but it can be a very gentle breeze that you bring in with some kind awareness. So as you inhale, it's a little bit softer and sweeter and maybe even a little more deep, maybe a little longer. And then do the same with your exhale. As you exhale, it's a little bit slower and, if possible, a little bit more complete. Let's try that at your own pace and as it's comfortable for you. Don't No need to push. We're just experimenting. We're just seeing where the breath can go and how long we can make it, but without feeling like we're in a contest of any kind. You can even imagine that this breath, because it does, soothes your central nervous system. Sometimes I picture it as a gentle breeze over a field, just waving the things in the field, swaying them very softly. And then one more thing to experiment with, if you like, is to hold the breath when it's full. So after you inhale, retain that breath very lightly, really gently, like you're holding a bubble, just for a second or two, and then breathe out. And then, if you can, after you exhale, just pause with your breath really, with the body empty of breath, let's say. And just pause for a moment like it's a deep rest before you inhale, before there's activity. Just a few times, slowing the breath down and being more aware of it, being really gentle with it, and allowing the body to enjoy really the retention, which absorbs the nutrients of breath, and also the pause of silence, which is a very deep rest. And then, if you're open to it, just step back. I'm sort of like hands off now. Mindfulness of the breath, and just pay attention to it. You might notice that you are more aware, you can sense and feel the four parts of your breath because we made them a tiny bit more obvious. But just notice how the breath feels as it enters and leaves in any capacity. It could be very, very short and quiet. It could be a little longer. Who knows? But don't touch it. Just allow it to be. So we'll rest in some communal silence here for a few minutes. Now, if you'd like to, start bringing the breath in a little more deeply again and just notice what's might have shifted or changed. And this time, the breath can come in with the intention of creating some more space, or like you're opening the windows of your body and let things move through. So again, it can be tender and gentle breath like a wind or a breeze. But when it's conscious and kind, it can really do a lot of things for us. Many different levels of things, whatever we choose. But just experiment and see how it feels now. Make a little bit more room inside with and from the breath. And then when you're ready, let your eyes just really gently float open without any rush to see anything, but just let whatever you see come in. It's like you're receiving sight, but from a very, well, maybe not very, but a more quiet place. And part of receiving the sight is the light in your room. If you can see outside of a window, then that pulls you further out. But even just the computer, include the computer as part of what you see, but softly. And then if you want to stretch or move a little bit, please do. If you were lying down, come on back if you're comfortable with that. So we tried a couple things there that you can isolate and do on their own. So I want to parenthetically tell you what that was, what they were. So we began by just noticing, the how we felt as much as possible, different sensations um, coming from where we were. So, well, excuse me, we started by trying to rest and relax and feel weight because that's kind of like the anchor. Is if we can relax the body somewhat, then maybe not completely, depends on your body and what you're working with and what you're living with. But if we can relax the body and feel weight, it's almost like it anchors us into where we are. And that allows us to be more present. So I like to focus on weight um, because if we're up in the atmosphere, we could be anywhere. So it's kind of a tether. Um, and then we started to notice, well, what's around us, but without the normal way of noticing, which is looking and analyzing or looking and thinking about what we see, or having preferences, or you might know as feeling tone, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, but just sensing the space. And we sense space in a lot of different ways, like through the temperature of the air on the skin. Excuse me. And then the differences in between the skin that's exposed and where we have, clothing on. It's, something to pay attention to. And all of this is without having to think, which is, can be really refreshing. And then we notice the light coming in through the eyelids, because, that's a way for us to know where we are in time and space. And some of us notice, colors and shapes and light inside the eyelids. Different thing, but same idea. And then sound, we listen to sound. Sound can be quite spacious, really pulls us out of ourselves and into our environment. And it's not something that we're making happen, it's just something that we're listening to. all of those things can be anchors, and they all come from the body. Uh, so then we started to do a little bit of more regulated breath. And I just want you to know that purposefully I didn't put a time on it, like breathe in for this many counts, breathe out for that many counts, pause for this long. And that was on purpose because we can increase our capacity of breath for breath and we can slow it down at our own pace. And this is really important. We can do it the other ways too. And those are good. But when we're working with our nervous system and we really want to get to know our bodies, I find it more valuable, at least to start, by not timing, not rushing, not placing any kind of technique on top, and just, sensing how long can I make my breath that's comfortable. And eventually you gain more and more capacity to slow the breath down. And that means that your nervous system is slowing down. And that means that your mind is slowing down. And that means we feel better generally, even if it's just for, a short period of time. So we slowed it down and also paid attention to what are called retentions or pauses. And, some of you, I'm sure many of you know about these. But one pause after the inhalation is full. And it can be an interesting challenge, I think. I've always found it an interesting challenge to be really soft around the breath, because there could be this kind of effort around it at times. Yeah. And that's normal, that's natural, and have a sense of humor. But we can, also hold the breath like a bubble. And then there's a pause after the exhalation, which can be, not always, but it can be a silent rest. So the system's like, not doing anything so much. I mean, of course it is, but not having to do anything with effort. Just be natural. It's not easy to be natural. That's one of the things I found out when I first started to practice is like, don't do anything. Well, how do you do that? Well, there's lots of different ways. At any rate, so we slowed the breath down and then we stepped back and just noticed it. Just mindfulness of the breath. Instead of mindful breathing, which that first part was, we were just mindful of the breath. And oftentimes when we do mindful breathing, we make space to be mindful of the breath. Because if we come in and we're cluttered, which who isn't, come into practice, let's say, we don't notice as much, and it's almost like we want to push things away rather than invite experience in. And that's not being with what is. And that's effort. And that doesn't really work. It's manufactured. So how can we be a little bit more natural? Well, let's soothe the nervous system first, as much as we're able to. And each day might be different. And then we can notice breath. And eventually breath gets pretty interesting. It may not be at first, you know, but that's a way to, pay attention to the present moment, but also so is sound. So it doesn't always have to be breath. Sound can be quite spacious, like I mentioned. Just noticing light coming through your eyelids can be interesting. All of it can be interesting if we pay attention. Everything's boring if we're just thinking about it. So that's a clue. If you're bored, then you're in your head, you know. When we pay attention to things, there's so much color and variation on theme and nuance. But again, how do we help ourselves find that interest and that curiosity? I'm pretty convinced it's through the nervous system first, and I've been practicing for a long time. And I'm very imaginative and I like to be in my imagination. And I like to think. You know, I, I'm not trying to dumb anything down, but I also know that if I settle my system, then I can widen my view and allow myself to be more present without effort. And then everything gets a little bit more interesting and frankly easeful. So those are the steps that I talked you through in that practice. Um, and the way that I teach practicing breath and awareness from the perspective of the body, from the somatic and the subtle body, is really from Dharma. I was a yoga teacher in the beginning for a couple of decades, and then I discovered the Buddha, and I was like, oh, this is a whole different um, way of understanding. And I have explored it ever since. It's been close to 40 years. And the way that the Buddha and some of the interpreters of the greatest interpreters of Dharma, some of our teachers that are alive now and also whom have passed, teach about breath practice. It's just not that well known, especially in the Theravadan tradition, the insight tradition. Mostly we get taught about breath just to stand back and watch it, yeah, which is important to be able to do that. But how do we set the stage? That's also really important. How do we set the stage really to be with what is? And so all the teachers that I've had, and I studied in the monastic tradition for close to 30 years, they all teach breath in different ways. But it's just, again, it's not that well known. So I feel, very passionate about teaching different ways uh, so that we can each find something that works for us so that we can be with our world. And everybody's world's slightly different, because of perception, but especially now, it's hard. Things are not easy. Things are tragic. So we're all asking ourselves, well, how do I hold this without shutting down? How do I hold this without being bitter or angry? I don't want anybody to take my heart. It affects my heart, of course. It affects all of our hearts, what's going on in the world. And if you're in the United States, you really know that well. Additionally, know that well. So, how do we stay open and not shut down when things are this unpleasant? It's a skill and it's possible. Maybe not 100% of the time, but we want to try to stay tender and healthy in the midst of what's going on, and kind and be able to notice kindness and notice goodness where and when it happens. And that's all part of, I think, being more aware and awake, not just paying attention to what's not going well, but also pay attention when we can to what is going well. And that's how we get a little bit more balanced, not bypassed, but balanced. That's an important distinction. So we're not trying to block anything out, but we're trying to include. And inclusion comes with capacity, and capacity is space, right? So even in your your room now, if you were to clean it out a little bit, however, whatever size it is, and minimalize the your belongings in there, you'd feel a little bit more spacious. Yeah. If the room is really crowded, then we're affected by that. But so we can affect internal space. That's what's interesting. That's good. I think offers a lot of beautiful agency, even if we're not well. So, and I speak from experience on that. So, and actually very current experience on that. So I lean into practices like this um, to keep me going, and going well. I mean, maybe not physically always well, but definitely mentally and emotionally well. So we can do that. We have a lot of choice. Um, so hopefully that practice was just maybe a little taste of some different ways you can practice. If you haven't practiced with me, I know some of you have. I saw you when you were in gallery view. um, yeah, but just to give us some choice because every day is slightly different, isn't it? And how we wake up each morning could be a little bit different. And what happens during our day is going to be different. And so we can adjust the practices to meet where we are. And I think that's really important. It's not one practice all the time, and there is no one way to practice. There's no right way to practice. We're practicing awareness, and that comes with so much variety. Yeah. But the body can be a refuge, believe it or not, even when you're in pain. You can find a place when you're in pain that isn't in pain. I know that might sound a little trite, but it's true. Like your earlobe, or your eyelids, or the backs of your eyes, not if you have a migraine, or your feet. There's some place maybe that we can find. But the body can be a refuge because it's quiet, generally. Generally, it's quiet. It's not talking away with words. But again, we have to develop the skill to be able to quiet the nervous system down so we can be listening and sensing the body without having to always figure it out or analyze why it's doing what, or, why it isn't the way we want. A lot of time spent on that. Why is my body not well right now? I take such good care of myself. For instance, I'm using myself as a facetious example, but an example nonetheless. I don't think that way, but um, many of us do. So, softness and tenderness and kindness and compassion and being present, being earthbound can be really helpful whenever we can procure it. So I would love to hear from you if you have a question or a thought.
Oh,
Um,
thank you. Thank you, Jill. This is Jenny, and
I
I
can
was one of
see
the folks who said that
you.
I'm off camera today because
Oh, okay.
I have yeah, I'm having one of my hard days and
Oh, sorry.
I'm not particularly camera ready, but just want to thank you. And I did have a question. I appreciated the part about if I'm bored. It means probably that I'm in my thoughts. Uh,
Yeah.
rather than, in the place of curiosity.
Hmm.
So I appreciated that. And also you mentioned the Theravadan tradition and then the tradition that you are coming from. And so that piqued my interest because I'm just learning about the different,
Yeah.
yeah, the different traditions.
There's lots. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, that's the insight tradition, which Big Bear supports, right? Is the Theravadan tradition. That's the original insight tradition. It's the
And
same
then
as Spirit
yours?
Rock and
Did
same
you
as
say you're from the monastic
I.
tradition?
Well, that's how I've learned. That's how I've
Okay.
been trained. Yeah.
Okay, and is that distinct from Theravadan or Insight
No,
or
that the monastics are part of the Theravadan tradition, and they were the group. Originally, they were the group of followers of the Buddha when he was alive, and it was they still follow the same teachings that the Buddha gave, as do all Buddhists, but in slightly variations of a theme. But the Theravadins were the from the original, or their lineage is the original group of people that was around the Buddha when he was alive.
okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks.
yeah. I hope you feel better.
Thank you. I'm working on it.
Hi, Jill. I'm Ellen, and I'm joining your retreat in March.
Oh,
I'm really
yay.
looking forward to that. This was such a pleasant introduction. So,
Oh, good.
um, I guess my question is, are there any wisdom texts that you are partial to that you would perhaps encourage folks to read before the retreat of
Hmm.
any, and if you were to pick one, I know there's I read a lot of different things, but
Yeah, yeah.
if there's anything in particular.
Um, well, I mean, preparation for retreat is just to be open and curious. I'm sure you know that part. And um, if you wanted to listen to a teacher, two teachers actually, who I think are extraordinary. My primary teacher, his name is Ajahn Amaro. I can put this in the chat. He's not teaching right now because he just got back from a year-long solo journey. Oops. But he's got lots of books and lots of recordings. And the other is Ajahn Suchito, who is currently teaching now. And Ajahn Suchito really is out there with being somatic. I mean, that's his flag, like mine. And so he brings in this beautiful, different, beautiful ways to, I mean, he's a Dharma teacher, he's a monastic. He's, you know, as pure as it gets in terms of that. And he teaches about the subtle body and the somatic body, subtle and somatic. So the somatic is just the felt body, right? Not just, but it is. And then the subtle is inside. And it takes a little while to uncover all of that, but um, he's a great guide and he has written lots of really good books and has a website. And so you could explore either of those two teachers, and I think it would be interesting. And they're who I've learned from, mainly Ajahn Amro, but in the last 5 years or so, Ajahn Suchito. And see what you think. So I hope more of you will join me if you haven't thought about it at the retreat, because retreat is like such a time to sink in, as you probably know. And uh, I look forward to it myself always. I mean, I've learned so much on retreats that you carry with you, and you're rearranging your cells when you're on retreat. You do a little bit every time you practice, but especially on retreat. And it doesn't go away. It shifts, it's not the same as being on retreat when we're back in our homes and in our daily life. But you carry all the insights with you, and we begin to live from more of a somatic experience of space and being or sensing, let's say. uh, we just live naturally more rooted in the body and embodiment, which is a huge difference for most of us. Since I can't see you, you can put a question in the chat. Is there anything new? Or you can begin to talk if you like.
Hi, my name's Brendan.
Oh, hi, I actually see your little tiny thumbnail.
Yeah,
Hi.
there was a point where I thought my Zoom disconnected because it was so silent. And I was like,
Oh, yeah.
is she still there? Are they still there? And then I opened my eyes and so that was pretty amazing.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, and yeah, I felt very at peace. But it was a trip because I was like, then my mind goes, oh, something must be wrong with Zoom. And then I opened my eyes and there you were.
Right.
Extremely quiet. So there you
Yeah,
go.
that's great.
Thank you. Thank you. That was amazing.
Oh, I'm glad you liked it. I'm glad you experienced that. One of my friends, monastic friends, did a talk recently, and he was suggesting that when we first wake up, try not to remember who you are. And it was kind of like that. It's kind of like that uh, 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 liminal space, where you think nothing's going on, or you're not even thinking that, you're just experiencing it. And before things get formed, that's really silent. It's the formations, mental formations, that creates the noise, and then the distractions, and then the discursiveness, etc. So I like those liminal spaces when they happen. They're very interesting and organic, and come and go, but they're wild. It's just part of consciousness, that conscious awareness that isn't doing anything.
I also enjoyed when you had us come back and opening our eyes as if we were seeing for the first time, or at least that's how I perceived it.
Yeah.
And because for me, I mean, last year I had some issues with I had a detached retina and some other things. And it's like I took my eyes for granted. And it's like, but
Yeah.
being able to do that
Oh,
and going, oh, wow, or how I take things for granted, the colors.
yeah, yeah.
And so that was really cool as well.
Yeah, that's great. I have a friend that has that, and it's tough. I mean, losing anything really brings its preciousness to the forefront, doesn't it? Or even losing something temporarily, like, the ability to get out of bed. It really wakes us up to the preciousness of everything. I don't suggest getting sick or having a problem like that because, we don't need it to force that to happen. But, um, part of the Dharma practice is waking up, right? I mean, maybe all of it. And waking up to what is while it's here. That's why I think the idea of capaciousness or spaciousness is so important because yes, maybe you'll know the pain of the world more. Yeah, but you also know the joys and the goodness and what's still here. There's a wonderful teacher who died last year, Joanna Macy. I'm sure some of you know who she was. And one thing she said that I heard a while back was somebody asked her, well, why aren't you really depressed about the environment, and how can you do the work that you do, knowing and being so aware of everything that's happening? And, she was a Buddhist teacher and practitioner as well. And she said, because it's not gone yet. I thought, wow, that's really phenomenal. She said, I can still go outside. And she lived near me here in Berkeley. And I can still go outside and see the trees and the sky and listen to the birds. They're not gone. So it's an interesting perspective to notice what you have while you have it, to notice who you love while they're alive or even when they've passed, but just to sense that love and to appreciate the sandwich that you can make, little things. They're so meaningful, I think, especially now because the world is really on fire. So let's not let the fire consume us. It can easily, right? We just have to mitigate your time online, I think, or reading the news. But it's like, let's really pay extra special attention to what we have now. So I hope you'll join me again. It'd be lovely to see you on retreat. But I've got a lot of things that I offer on my website and online. And I know that Madeline wanted to come back in and say something before we end. So appreciation for showing up and taking the time to help yourself and try something maybe a little new with a person that might be new to you. I hope to get to know you more if I can.
Thank you so much, Jill.